Okay? You have and I have got to make for certain that our lives tilt more toward the godly side than they do the carnal side. Because the carnal mind will always lead you away from God. It will always lead you away from God. Let me see that paper just a second, brother. Okay, very good. You understand what I mean by carnal mind? Anybody not understand what the carnal means? Carnal means earthly or worldly or of the world or of the flesh. The carnal mind leads you away from God. Because the carnal mind is enmity, Romans 8 and 7. The carnal mind is enmity against God. The reason is it is not subject to the law of God. What does that word subject mean? It's not a subject. What's a good example of a subject? You've got a king, and then you have his subjects, which are what? All the people who does what the king says. Okay? The carnal mind is not subject to the law of God. Okay? Carnal, fleshly, or pertaining to the body as the seat of desires or appetites. That word mind comes from the Greek word phronema, which is the underlying attitude to life. The carnal mind, the underlying attitude to life that determines behavior. The underlying attitude to life that determines behavior. So we've got a carnal mind or a spiritual mind. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. Enmity. I've told you this recently, I believe. There's one place, commentary, that describes that word enmity as hatred. But the best definition that I can find is not what it is, but it's defined rather by what it is not. And what it is the complete opposite of agape, which is the love that God has for us. From John 3:16, among other places. So the carnal mind is enmity against God. So let me ask you this. How can we constantly bombard ourselves, allow ourselves to be bombarded with ungodly things, immoral things, things that the Bible teaches against, and expect to still be holy and pleasing unto God? Is this boring? We generally don't like it. I've already made some folks uncomfortable tonight. Let me give you a trick. If you're doing something that I teach against, if I say it, make yourself keep your head up. Because if you drop your head and you start squirming, you just told off on yourself. Now everybody just went nervous. Are we making sense that our mind determines? That's why anytime, and I've been around this, I'm 42 years old, I've been around this all my life, all of my life. Anytime somebody backslides, they feel the need to make a statement and let it be known that they backslid by changing the outer man. It's a statement that's made. Because listen why. Listen why. I'm going to take you to the Old Testament. Don't have it in my notes, but I'm going to take you there. I believe it's 1 Samuel chapter number 16. There was a man named Samuel looking for a king. And he came to Jesse's house to anoint a king. When Eliab walked up, the oldest son, he was big, he was muscular, he was good looking. He looked like a king to Samuel. But the Lord said, here's the problem. Man looks at the outer man. But God looks at the heart. So when that happens, when somebody walks away from God and begins to do things, begins to dress in ways that we teach against, and I'm going to get there. And I'm going to be plain Jane too, by the way. Won't have to be no guesses, because it's in the book. I'm not scared. You know what, Brother Pete? Is because nothing that I'm going to teach come out of this. It all come out of the book. We're going to be plain when we begin to teach. But if you get to the place where you feel the need to let everybody know I ain't Pentecost no more, it ain't going to be a surprise to the Lord. And I will guarantee you, if people would be honest with me and I could sit down with them, you can go back somewhere in their life and find a place when the world became more important than the Lord. And they begin to feed the world rather than the Lord. Now, we're not going to talk about it too much, but I had a conversation with somebody some time ago doing some ignorant things, stupid things. They knew it, I knew it, and everybody else knew it. And they said, I'm wrong. And I said, it thrills me to death to hear you say that. Because and we've got to be aware of this. I've got to preach it. I've got to preach it to you. Okay, I have to. That there is a place that you can get to where you no longer know right from wrong. And you know where that takes place at? In your mind. If you find yourself, listen to me, this is a warning, and I'm about to close, because I want to go in a little bit different direction next week. If the carnal mind is not subject to God, what is it subject to? It's subject to the flesh. If you find yourself, and it happens, a few are bold enough to say it. Most folks don't. But if you find yourself questioning anything and everything that's preached across this pulpit, let me just give you a warning. Find a place and pray through. Don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. The carnal mind is enmity against God. I have to purposely, you know, I've had it happen a few times lately in different settings and different conversations where I've talked to people about watching things they shouldn't be watching and having conversations that they shouldn't be having. And one of them is all kinds of filthy language on shows you watch. And you know what the rationale is, Brother Billy? We hear it all the time anyway. You don't hear it in your living room all the time. I've done went to meddling. You got sinner family members that they got enough respect for you not to come into your house and talk filthy like that. Why in the world would we let stone cold strangers do it? Stand with me.